Hey there. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today's episode, trying something a little new. It's kind of a relaxed conversation about podcasts that I like, why I like them. I list a bunch of them. In fact, fun drinking game. Every time that I'm surprised at the next entry of the next podcast that I bring up, every time that I sound surprised, take a shot. And you'll be in the hospital in a few minutes. So drink responsibly, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. Hope you enjoy. It's kind of weird recording the intro after making the episode. It's not how time works. It's not how time works at all. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. Let me out. I I I, I can't be in here. Let me out. I So I was doing some research on walrus for an upcoming episode that I was thinking about making, and I found this website. I found this article. It was pretty good. It made a couple of claims about the symbolism of walruses, their cultural meanings, and totems and such. Like if you see a walrus in your dream, it can mean some rough times are ahead. If you feed a walrus, you can have some positive changes. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I won't mention this. It looks like a fun website. It looks like somebody's fun passion project. I won't tell you what it is, though, in case I'm a little too mean. I don't want to be too mean. I want to respect this website and whoever made it. Anyways. The last section is about walrus and culture, and it's almost directly just repeating the information in the Wikipedia article about walruses that I just read. I just read that one, and then I read some about National Geographic, like walrus facts and stuff. So I'm not sure what the walrus episode's going to be, but you remember my first episode, right? There was some microphone problems, but I talk about a walrus. That's why there's a walrus in the thumbnail, the little graphic, right? The thing that's on every episode right now. But it just got me thinking about, could I make a podcast that's just stating Wikipedia facts, right? Just recontextualizing them, saying I've collected all this information. Now this website doesn't just do that; it also supplies some of its own material about, it could be made up, or it could just be a thoughtful meditation. I'm not really one to say, but it got me thinking about what some of my favorite podcasts were and why I like them. So I want to go through. I have a list of podcasts here. I just want to talk about a few of them. Things that I've listened to throughout the years. Probably the podcast that I still listen to the most. It's actually a pretty big one. It's the Bible Project. I think that regardless of your faith or religion, the Bible Project is a good podcast. It's just a really in-depth analysis of Hebrew scripture and literature for the most part. It's really quite wonderful, unique. But it is a bigger podcast, so they don't need too much help in the marketing department. But I really do appreciate what they make. I've always tried out a bunch of mythology podcasts, but none of those have ever really stuck out to me. Lots of theology podcasts that I listen to, like the Liturgist podcast and what You Have Permission. I've tried out a couple others, but those are some of the big names. I've listened to a lot of various music podcasts. The Fundamentalists and the Minimalists are ones that I've listened to many times. The Minimalists I listened to a lot in high school. I was kind of a minimalist. I can talk about that later. But they've gotten a little repetitive. They've really narrowed in on their niche, and they have their own style of delivering stuff now. But I liked their early work. You can tell I'm kind of a hipster in that way. The Fundamentalist was fun. It's I might get back into that, but it's got a philosopher, Peter Rollins, the comedian, Elliot Morgan. It was a fun one. Just kind of talked about some stuff. Peter Rollins has a couple of good books out there. The Sisyphus 5 podcast. I've listened to an episode or two of that. He's a YouTuber. Has some good stuff to say. Listen to Alan Watts. Oh, some Stoic stuff as well. Those are some podcasts that I like. A couple of Stoic ones, like Daily Stoic. I think they have a podcast. Lots of productivity. I used to learn Russian through a podcast. I would try that. I don't know Russian though. Oh, I also listen to Big Rod. Big Rod's a little indie podcast. It's like a bedtime story. It's a space western. It's like eight or something episodes of Big Rod out. It's pretty good. I almost forgot one of my favorites, the Minute Hour. I love the Minute Hour. A lot of my stuff is very similar to the Minute Hour. I've found kind of in retrospect. I really like their work. They have a grill video which I like quite a bit. It's quite disturbing. I'll probably do an episode dissecting that later. Just because a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's really quite wonderful. Yes, the Minute Hour, really good podcast. Big fan of that one. It's less of a podcast, more of a audio story collection. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun time. That's just a big long list of all the podcasts that I like. I'll get into why I like them later, but I think that we could do with a music break. I don't know about you, but cue the music break. Wow, what a fun music break. All right, we're gonna break down these podcasts that I mentioned. I just rattled off a bunch of them, right? Just things that I like. I'm gonna talk about why I like them now, but we're gonna do it in by category. We're not gonna go through each podcast again and talk about it. Let's start with self-improvement podcast. So this is stuff like Mark Manson, the Minimalists, and like some music stuff. What's good about these podcasts? What's kind of the draw? Well, with like Stoic podcasts, it's really good to kind of receive like a dose of this. Normally, like it's a very specific type of literature, right? Like Greek, Roman Stoics. You receive a little dose of this, some inspiration, how it applies to daily living. With Mark Manson, you listen to that, you get some advice for how to deal with some modern problem. With the Minimalists, it's a variety of different topics, but it's, hey, here's something that you can do to live intentionally, So I think those are nice because they can kind of give you the illusion of control, and they can also genuinely help you, right? You listen to a podcast about decluttering before you declutter. Now you have new ideas about how to do it. But if you listen to a podcast about decluttering instead of decluttering, then that's a little rough. Fortunately, podcasts, you don't have to watch anything, so you can do them both. So I think those podcasts are good. Those types of podcasts are good when they kind of give you some stuff to kind of chew on and digest, or to directly apply to a problem that you're trying to tackle. That's what I like in my self-improvement podcasts. All right, next category of podcasts. I've got a lot of philosophy and spirituality. I'll jumble them both together. I don't think that's super wise, but we're gonna do it anyways. Philosophy/spirituality podcast. These are nice, I think, because you can kind of have a really relaxing time with them. You can just kind of sit on the floor and you can soak in new and interesting and rich ideas about how people think about things, now, how people used to think about things, people's responses to things, how they view connection to some sort of transcendent. It's all very relaxing, kind of help engage your muscles. If you belong to a religion, you can hear some fun voices within that religion, some dissenting ones. You can, of course, you can make an echo chamber for yourself really easily, right? If that's what you wanted, oh boy, there's a podcast for you, right? If that's your goal, it's not that hard. Those are great categories of podcasts. What do I like about them? Well, I like encountering some challenging ideas. That's one aspect that I enjoy. Something that I haven't heard yet. So a variety of content. I like consistent reminders. So if there's a catchphrase or a point that's being driven in over the course of many different episodes or just throughout the entire podcast, that's always a good one. Some repeated motifs. Those are really enjoyable. I'll keep the Bible Project as separate from that category because while it is very much theology and spirituality, it's also a really good literature podcast. With that one, it pays to be engaged. I said that I do it when I play Minecraft, but it really pays to be engaged. Like if you have their app, you can read along or look at some Hebrew words or think about how they connect. So that's what's enjoyable about them, is having a rich source material to go through. With other podcasts, you don't have a source material in front of you. You're not exploring anything directly. It's a bit more abstract. So it's nice to have kind of an environment where you can, sit on the floor and stare at the ceiling, stuff like that. Then I'll call smaller podcasts. That'll be another category here. So like a lot of songwriting tips and tricks stuff. Big Rod, the Minute Hour, all these indie podcasts. So I make kind of one of these indie podcasts, and so I'm always want to support smaller podcasts, right? That's just I think that if that's the community that I want to be involved in, right? If I want to be a small podcast, I got to listen to small podcasts. What's nice about these? What's nice about these is that it's some person's passion project, right? Someone's like, hey, this is what I want to make, this is what I want to do, and you can kind of feel the effort going to it in an intimate and personal level. That's really great. You can certainly hear the effort in other well-made podcasts too, but maybe they have a writing team and an editor, but if it's just one person or a small community making all these things, you go, wow, that must have taken forever, and you can kind of admire the artistry in that way. And so those podcasts can be really varied. I'm always looking for more. If you can think of any, send them to me in an email, comment on my YouTube videos or something. I'd love to listen to some more smaller podcasts like the Sisyphus 55. I forgot to include that. Although that is a philosophy podcast, it's still, I'd consider a smaller podcast. Although I don't know, maybe they've gotten quite large. We're gonna do one little song break, and then I'm gonna wrap this puppy up. Let's go. Let's do it. Wow, great! What a great time! What a fun little podcast. Let's talk about podcasts that I enjoy. Would you be interested in that Wikipedia entry podcast where I just read Wikipedia? I'll actually just summarize it for you. I won't go through line by line. That'd be insane. I wouldn't do anything insane on this podcast. No. Thank you so much for listening. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Have a good one.